After exploring Cornell's low-mow native lawn and the impact their deer exclusion fence had on forest regeneration, we had a better sense as to what's possible on our own land. Before leaving, however, Todd wanted to show us one more experiment he and his restoration ecology class have been doing, which is showing what site restoration looks like over the course of many years.
Again, as a demonstration area, when you're doing restorations, a lot of people are getting started, right at the beginning, year 0, year 1, and it's hard to envision what it's supposed to look like or what it could look like 5 years from now or 10 years from now. So we have a 12-year running chronological sequence of restoration that will allow us to kind of go forwards in time to see what this restoration that we did just this last year here, where we're standing, might look like. But before we get into this year's, let's look at year 0, which I imagine is very similar to some of the areas on your property, and so there might be some things that you know very well.
Bush honeysuckle.
But we have like all of the, the dirty dozen here, if you will. We have Oriental bittersweet, we have bush honeysuckle, we have buckthorn, we have tree of heaven, we have autumn olive, we have multiflora rose, the list goes on.
Right.
And the commonality that they have is that they all shade out the ground and outcompete the native species because they cast so much shade, they take up so many resources, that then they have this competitive advantage, and then they exclude the desirable species that we want to see. And bush honeysuckle is a good example of that. It casts a significant amount of shade, but it also starts its growing season sooner in the year, so it's putting shade out when the canopy hasn't leafed out above, and it's shading out woodland wildflowers.
It's one of the great ways for us to identify to take it out, though. If you're not familiar with it and you see it already like bushing out and you're like, what is that? It's usually the honeysuckle,
right.
And it allows you to remove it really
right.
quickly early in the season.
And some of these have other competitive advantages. So common buckthorn, which we have here as well, is alleliopathic. And so what is that? It is chemical warfare on your neighbors. And it exudes these chemicals into the ground that preclude certain species to grow. Now, some of our native species are like that. Black walnut's a good example.
Of course, yeah, juggling.
Right, so, but it's doing that, and then you have a bunch of non-native invasive species that only can tolerate those conditions, so it's definitely at the top of the list of the things to remove. So
right.
I won't talk a lot about how we did this because I imagine you guys have covered a lot of the different removal methods, but this is essentially what year 0 can start with. And I should also give some site context to where we are. We're still in the Money Wildflower Garden. This area was previously cultivated, and so we're not going to see pit and mound topography. Then it was very heavily used agriculturally, has a history of grazing, so we don't expect great things in terms of the seed bank or other species that would be able to persist. So most of what is here, not all, but most of what is here in our restoration we had to put in here. So more of a de novo restoration than a restoration that you're already working with some intact matrix.
Right. Multiflora rose.
Multiflora rose, so yeah, watch your step. So the restoration ecology class last fall seeded this area in. We planted some plugs in here. We also planted some trees and shrubs.
And so that means when you seeded it in and you put plugs, did you have to remove everything
first? So this was kind of interesting because you notice we have a power line over us right here, and it was serendipitous because they needed to do some clearing in here. And we said, hey, let's do this as our project area because it's getting cleared, and they took all this out without us having to do it. So that was a bonus.
Yeah.
We love that. But it was almost bare ground when we started. And we did do a little bit of site preparation, making sure that we had some areas where there was soil that was exposed. We didn't want to just throw our seeds out on the duff layer and not get that soil to seed contact. That's really key.
Yep.
And so we did that in the late fall, early winter, which is called frost seeding. And the idea with that is that the seeds are able to naturally stratify. They go through the entire year, if you will, very much like they would in nature. And that freeze thaw does a couple things. One, it breaks their dormancy, but it also gets them into the micropores as the snow melts and then it pushes things around, and they find the cracks and crevices naturally occurring in the soil, which is great spots for them to be able to germinate. So highly recommended. And then you also get a little bit of protection from birds and things that might predate some of the very costly seed that you want to protect. So again, our approach is to come up with some of these core matrix species that really take hold early. They might not persist long term, and they start to facilitate other species to be able to fill in and grow beyond them. And Elymus is like among those. And Elymus hystrix is Bottlebrush that we're looking at right here. You know, we're only like 3 months into the growing season, and there's all kinds of them all around us.
Yeah.
So we have riverbank rye as well. We have a number of other Elymus, about 5 or so that belong in our region, and most of those are represented in here. And I think by weight, about 50% of the seed that we put in were these woodland grasses to really kind of create this matrix. So long term, we're looking to build, to restore a forest, but you can't start by putting the things in the forest. You kind of have to work through a natural succession.
Right.
And having a savanna-like suite of species that helps to regenerate the tilth and the fertility and make the habitat conducive for some of the other species that require deeper shade and more fertile conditions.
It's like passing the ball down the basketball court closer to the guy who's near the basket for the slam dunk. You know, it's just like they're making the way for the forest.
Right,
so to
that's
speak.
a great analogy.
Yeah.
And so when we're looking at one of these sites here, we have some Penstemon, we have some sensitive fern. The sensitive fern probably was here already. And so what we're looking for is both what is showing up from what we planted, what is showing up from the seed bank, or that might have been diminutive underneath some of the invasive shrubs that's able to spontaneously grow, or what is really a problem. And you know, we did see one of the multiflora rose, so we clearly want to do that. Is it Jack in the pulpit?
Yeah.
Yep, that's great. And so right now I would say for a year one, early summer planting, I'm not seeing a huge number of problems in terms of what's here, and a lot of the species that we wanted in here are showing up. So here's a nice Monarda.
Oh, nice.
Oh, crush that and smell that.
Is this a punctata, or what is this one? Do you know?
We put.
Or
I think we put both out here.
Okay.
This smells amazing.
It's amazing. It's in our meadow mix. Don't worry.
Good choice. Yeah, the mint family is great. We have a lot of goldenrods. They're native, probably canadensis, altissima. I see some young blackberries that are in here. That's all appropriate. So by and large, I would say not a huge number of really problematic invasives. So I'm pretty happy with what we're seeing in terms of where we are just this year. So let's move over to see, we're fast forwarding now in time. Oh, here's some Lysimachia. It's a Whorled loosestrife. Oh, this is a really beautiful one. Rubus odoratus. So we like shrubs. Shrubs are very appropriate to have out here, and there's actually quite a few right in this spot underneath this pine.
Yeah. So this gets a little berry like a raspberry, right?
Right. It's not quite as sweet as all the cultivated ones, but it is edible. And but I think the flower is prettier than any of the other ones.
Is this a phlox lookalike, or is this phlox?
No, that is the Dame's rocket, and we do have quite a bit of that.
So that is invasive, right?
Yeah, non-native. It's in a lot of wildflower mixes, not recommended.
Right.
But here's the adults here with the long salix growing next to a garlic mustard. Gives you a good comparison.
Yes, garlic mustard, which is another invasive.
So it's going to be here. But that's that one probably just got knocked over and regrew and reflowered in there.
So to recap a little bit. So this area used to be like the area that we just were in.
So we're going to go through. Exactly.
year
We're going to
later.
go through the different years, and now we're on the next year, which is year 3.
Year two,
Yeah.
2/3.
And we're going to see how this natural restoration actually has proceeded forward.
Right.
in
So
time.
every year you decide to do another section and another section, just so you can keep that timeline alive.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's cool.
Yeah.
let's
It
move
is
forward.
really neat.
So riverbank grape, right? We vines and shrubs are all.
And are these ones now kind of moving in, or ones that had been planted?
Yeah, so it's a combination.
Like, how do you know?
The longer you go,
Yeah.
the more spontaneous things are
Yeah.
able to establish, and of course, the fruits are bird dispersed. So
Right.
it makes a lot of sense that shows up at some point in time in your restoration,
And is
so
this
that you don't have to
redbud?
put it in there. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
We're actually outside the range of native redbuds,
Mm-hmm.
but only by a little bit, and they very much like it in here for sure. So. Some more goldenrods, some more blackberries,
Yeah, definitely see the blackberries moving in.
and up now we're probably in year 3 or 4. Here's some nice elderberry,
Ooh, sambucus.
which is also tasty.
Do you know if this is the red or the black or?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
Okay, this is already a dead stem, so.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna say that this is not the red-berried elder,
Mm-hmm.
but the other one, because I think the red-berried is the one that has brown pith
Mm.
in that. But they're both tasty, and we have both, and both are appropriate and could be in this habitat type.
More goldenrod I see.
Yeah,
moving
and not just one. So we had altissima, we saw
Yeah.
zigzag goldenrod earlier, so it's really starting to develop and be
Is this
abundant.
deer tongue?
That is a dicanthelium
Yeah.
and native woodland grass.
Yep. And then this looks like colt's foot or something.
Yeah. So, and we do, we still, it's not surprising in a 3, 4, 5 year old restoration to have some weedy things, but none of these are making it difficult for the native plants to persist in
Right.
here. Some wood ferns.
So this multiflora rose want to come up here or not?
It does, and we have to be diligent. There's
Cut that out.
there's restoration, and then once you get to a point, then you're doing ongoing maintenance. And it's not surprising you're going to have multiflora rose persist and still be coming up in areas. Just having to control it.
So you do maintain it. It's not like you let this go and it does this.
Correct.
Right.
Here's a nice Thalictrum. I'm sure we put that in here.
So this is the fruit of the, is this the Rubus one or no? Do you know what this
I think
is?
that's a strawberry.
Is it a
Did
strawberry?
you pick it off of
I
the?
picked it off the ground, but it looks too perfect though. Doesn't feel like a strawberry. I don't know what that is.
Well, we'll look for more.
Yeah, and if I die? Wait, is this so this is the rue?
Yes,
The lictrinum? Yeah.
meadow rue. Mm-hmm. Oh, I see a red berry up here. Now look at this.
This is browse.
That was not us.
Yeah.
That was not us.
Either that or somebody came in with the hand weeder.
Oh, I lost my red berry, so we'll move on.
I
But
lost my
we,
little red berry.
We do have some groundwater discharge
Yeah.
in areas up here. It's one of the reasons that it's not fully forested up the hill.
Right.
But I am noticing skunk cabbage
Oh,
growing
that's
right
interesting.
here.
Yes, skunk
so
cabbage
it's
is like
telling you it's a little bit wet.
really wet area.
The berries right here.
Oh, you found them.
Oh,
there you go.
Oh yeah, there it is.
That was right.
Oh yeah, there's another one. See, but it's not sweet at all. It's almost not worth the effort of eating.
Well, if you're an animal, you'd eat it.
Yes, that's true. I am an animal, but just the kind that walks on 2 legs and has more culinary preference.
Oh, this is a nice one. You guys would like this. The clematis.
Is
Climbing.
it a native clematis?
Yeah, we have native clematis in
No,
here.
really?
It's growing on all of this here.
Oh my
this
God, I
box
had
elder.
no idea.
Virgin bower is beautiful.
Oh, virgin bower. Okay,
Yeah.
I didn't even really put 2 and 2 together.
Yeah. So that's a
Wow.
nice one. The alternate leaf dogwood,
Yeah,
which
there
is
you go.
very
Do the dogwood test.
Site
the
appropriate.
string cheese test.
How do you know it's dogwood?
I do the string cheese test sometimes
So you
with
pull
the leaves.
leaves apart. And
Yeah,
then
that's
you see
how
a
I
bunch of
learned it.
wires.
Did you ever
Okay.
hear
No,
the
I
string
didn't know
cheese?
that one. I like that
The
one.
one where
Show
you,
me.
you pull, and if it has like this little string cheese
Yeah.
veins, then you could tell that it's a dogwood. Yeah.
Works for me.
Yeah. That's one that I learned at Cornell. Stuck with me.
Oh, look at this. Nice patch of the dicanthelium there. So now we're probably in year 5, 6.
Is this 9 bark?
We have 9 bark. Isn't that nice?
It's nice.
But also notice how much more shaded we are in here,
Right.
not just from the canopy, but
Yeah.
from some of these shrubs in here. So it's really starting to change. And the vegetation is looking a lot different. Some of
Yeah.
it's much more mature. We're losing some of the abundances of the Elymus that we have. It's still here and there, but that's, you know, and it moves around. This is Canadian wild rye. This is another Elymus. This is last year's, so that's why I'm able to tell
Yeah.
it. But this is another great one to include in your Elymus mix.
Nice. Oh, black. These little black caps?
Yeah.
Oh, they're just not quite right, but I'm tempted anyway.
Well, sour fruit is okay
Yeah,
sometimes.
sour is good. Here, gotta hit that up. That's probably the ripest. They're like my favorite. And these like little herb Roberts, are they called? Or
Yeah, we have that. It's non-native, not that problematic, so
Yeah.
it's not something that we focus on trying to control. So yeah, we're in year 9, year 9, 10. I'm looking at this patch of ginger here.
Oh my gosh, yes. I was just looking at it. I was like, oh my God, is that really what it is? It is.
So now we're
Like
picking up some of the
yeah.
spring woodland wildflowers in here, not just all the sun-loving plants,
Right.
as we're kind of getting to be much more shaded.
Shady, yeah.
Right.
A great native plant for people who want to do shade gardens. I mean,
Yes,
a lot of the ones
and
that
ground
are
cover.
Yeah, a lot of the ones that are sold are usually not the native asarums, but that one is native, right? Yeah. So.
Yeah. So we have woodland sunflower in here,
And then the
wood
zigzag
ferns,
goldenrod
zigzag,
still?
lots of
Yeah.
zigzag goldenrods, wood ferns, white pine.
Oh,
So it's becoming a lot more diverse.
yeah.
And a lot more of the woodland species. Doll's eyes, another spring
Nice,
ephemeral,
Actia.
the red one.
Yeah.
So yeah, now we're really getting into a part of our mature, you know, year 10, 11, 12 restoration.
Yeah.
And it's looking much more like a woodland in here.
Absolutely.
And so it takes time for that to develop. You couldn't expect the baneberry to
Yeah.
grow in your restoration in year 1, but you still might put the seeds
Yeah.
there.
Is this bloodroot? Right
Yes.
Here? Sanguinaria candida.
Yeah. Nice and
Nice.
healthy.
Yeah. Very nice and
So
healthy.
that's something that you planted 10 years ago and it doesn't come up until now,
Well, you didn't even plant it 10 years ago. It just comes up, right?
or it just comes up.
It's hard to remember exactly what happened 10 years ago.
It's hard to know what I ate
For
for
the-
breakfast this morning.
For the record. But you know what I would say is that you shouldn't expect to see it within the first few years of
Right.
a restoration. The site really needs to become conducive for it to be able to thrive, and that's not just one plant. You know, that's a big clump of them. So that one has definitely been here for quite
so
some
just
time.
to make the point, when you're doing the restoration and you're kind of removing the honeysuckle, you're removing all that kind of stuff, it's almost too sunny for something like this.
Absolutely.
And so the site becomes more and more conducive. Like, I always like to think about it like, you know, you're moving towards forest, right? And the forest likes to create the atmosphere that it likes to live in. So it's kind of like, you know, creating a more humid environment, shading, and these things are transitioning into that because they say, okay, well, I could tolerate this shade and I could grow, so I'm gonna grow there.
You sound like a restoration ecologist. I like that.
Now you're doing this without deer fencing it in.
Right.
So how are you preventing the deer from just coming in here and taking it apart?
Well, we did see some significant browse in a few different places there. We do have a management program on campus to try to keep the deer population in check. So we are trying to still strike that balance. If we weren't doing that, we wouldn't have seen anywhere close to the diversity that we are seeing now.
Yeah. It's pretty impressive.
Oh, spice bush. This is another good one to scratch and smell.
Is it
Linderum,
Yeah.
benzoin, yeah. This site, so I should say we're in a really rich floodplain site here in the wildflower garden. And so some of these plants really do well in that higher organic content area. Spice bush is a great one to have. So now we're walking probably into an area that's more of the original wildflower garden that wasn't part of our restoration. But it's a great reference site for us to look at and to see, is it significantly different or the same as what it was that we're using, because it is our reference model. And it's always good to have that. I don't know if you guys have picked one perfect reference model for your restoration.
Not yet, actually, but I think we should. I think it's a really good reminder to do that. I also just want to point out something that is like I have been noticing throughout the whole time is just our Virginia creeper. Or isn't it Persinocissus pinkifolia?
Yep.
And it's like, some people mistake it for, poison ivy, which has the 3 leaves, but I've been seeing it throughout. It'll start crawling up the trees and everything, and it's one of those ones that I feel like just could grow wherever near the edge. So
it's got a great strategy along with a lot of these climbing and vining plants, which is that they actually can find the spots that they do best in because they can grow to it, root, and give up on the where they were before if it wasn't working for them.
They have a way to move
and
without feet.
So in our really rocky environments, they're a great choice that then can end up picking their own place to grow.
Choose your own path.
Choose your own
path method. So here we're moving out of the restoration zone and into, like you said.
Yeah, we're back into what I would consider more of the original part of the wildflower garden here. And this was part of our reference model for what we were looking at. So we're running out of path though, so maybe this is a good place to wrap it up.
Yep. I think so. I mean, this is incredible. It gives us a sense of like what we can expect as we move down our own restoration path. And I like the idea of like having a model in your mind of like what you want to see. And I think we're going to have multiple models because, we want to have a meadow and we want to have, our forest and we want to have, a lawn and everything like that. But what would those model like elements look like? So thank you. This has given me so much to think about. And it's really nice to see that you did a lot of the hard work for us. So
well, we have a great team.
Guessing.
Yeah, we have a great team here and happy to help and share. Look forward to seeing what you guys create.
Yeah, same here. Thank you so much.
Just so you know, we're committing 10% of our Google AdSense proceeds back into the Finger Lakes community, which will be graciously matched by our partners at Espoma Organic. By watching these videos and being a part of our flock, you're indirectly helping the community here.